know Janelle when she was on KGO Channel 7 for 8 years, where she covered stories from the San Bruno gas fire to the steroid scandal in professional sports. She also hosted the afternoon talk show The View from the Bay for 4 years, where she interviewed distinguished guests such as President Jimmy Carter, former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, and Oprah. In Janelle's spare time, you'll find her hiking and golfing with her family. She also promotes cancer awareness and encourages people to join the National Marrow Donor Registry. Yes, I'm all for that. Folks, please welcome Janelle Wang.
Well, we are closing out the film, and it's so nice to have you. What a beautiful film to close out. And we have the executive producer of the film here, Dave Liu. So he's going to sit down with me and introduce yourself, and we'll do a fireside chat. And please join us. Give a big round of applause for Dave. Dave, after I watched this film, the first thing I wanted an update on the family. How are they doing, and where are they in the process?
Yeah, so the short version is they're doing great. As you saw in the film, Jari, the boy, had his first surgery, which was a cleft lip repair on the outside. And he was due to have a cleft palate repair inside a little bit later. And he frankly didn't want to go back to the hospital. You saw a little of that in the film. But 2 months ago, I actually Zoomed with him. So I was on a video conference with him on the day that he was scheduled to have his cleft palate repair. And he was obviously very scared, as you can imagine. And so I wanted to reassure him. I wanted to really tell him 2 things. One was that we had actually just premiered our film at Holly Shorts in Los Angeles. That was actually our first premiere. And we had been told that we had won the festival. So I wanted to relay that to him, and I wanted to thank him for being willing to be in the film, and I wanted to let him know that he is making a positive difference in the world by sharing his story. And then the second thing I wanted to tell him was something that I wish someone had told me when I was growing up, which was that you are not alone. One of the things that I know we're going to get to in a moment here is I am also a cleft affected person. I'm 51, so I've lived through many surgeries and treatments, and it's very challenging. And I wish when I was 13, someone had told me that you're not alone. And yes, just like Jari has Jessa, I have my mother. But you really feel alone because at the end of the day, the experience that you have is really unique to yourself. And when I was growing up, a little bit like Jari, I never knew or met any other cleft affected people. And so I wanted to tell him that 2 months ago. I wanted to tell him that you're not alone. And he started crying. He was very emotional, and I started getting emotional. And that definitely wasn't my intent. My intent was to just reassure him that everything's going to be okay.
People love him, and he's got support. And Jessa, I mean, did that surprise you? I thought it was his mother, and then it turned out to be his big sister. That was so touching to me. She's probably the best sister I've ever heard of. I mean, that is just incredible strength and resilience and just true love for family. Your title, Every Day After, we spoke last week, and tell us why you named the film and titled it that.
Yeah, so I think that there is a perception, not just with cleft, but just in general with healthcare, that you take one pill or you have one surgery and then you live happily ever after. And frankly, I think we all know that that's not the case. In the case of cleft, it really is a lifelong challenge that many people go through. Speaking personally, as I mentioned earlier, I'm a cleft affected person. I had the bulk of my surgeries, before the age of 21. I had 11 craniofacial surgeries, so full on, full treatment, invasive, in the skull. But then I just recently had my 12th craniofacial surgery this summer. And I was pretty much out most of the summer, and I'm going to have my 13th craniofacial surgery in 5 days. And so part of the rationale and the reason why I wanted to make sure this film got made was to tell the story of cleft affected people, trying to educate people the fact that it really is a lifelong journey. And if I had the opportunity to be involved in this film and also talk about my own experience, that I'd be able to educate people on the fact that it is a lifelong journey. I like to say that Jari in many ways is the alpha and I'm the omega. He is at the beginning of his healthcare journey, and I am hopefully towards the end of my healthcare journey. But only time will tell if I need more treatment.
And talk about that. I was not aware. I thought it was a few surgeries and then you're done for life, but that's not the case. I mean, depending on the severity, there's multiple. You're going to have 13, and you could have more in the future because things are still changing. So can you educate me and everybody else on that? Like, why is it not just like, is there anybody who has 2 surgeries and they're done forever?
I'm sure there are some, but I think that is a rare case. So I was born with 4 clefts, a bilateral lip and bilateral cleft palate. So I have 4, so I was born with a big hole in the center of my face. I think in general, I'm probably a little bit more on the extreme side. However, when I poll other cleft affected people, 10 to a dozen surgeries seems to be actually kind of the norm of what I've seen. There are people I know that have had 20, even 30 surgeries. And so I think part of it is just we're all born different. We all have different anatomy, and sometimes it's a bad luck of the draw. I will say that I was lucky in that I didn't have any of the other issues that I know other cleft affected people have, which is I didn't have speech problems. My voice is a little nasally, but people can understand me. And I don't have hearing problems, although I've lived actually my whole life with a little bit of ringing in my ears, and I think for some people that's unbearable, but you kind of just get used to it. So if you have kind of the full gamut, you're not talking about just surgery, you're also talking about all kinds of therapies as well.
Speech therapy?
Yes.
Okay, for years.
Yes. And that's why for Jari, I don't want to scare him, but I know what's coming, and part of my message to him is not only are you not alone, but also you have to be strong because it's not one surgery and you're done. There's going to be other things that come along in his life related to his underlying cleft affection that will impact his healthcare, and he'll have to learn how to deal with it.
Right, and then also the mental health, I'm sure. Did that ease with each surgery for you? I know you talked about your childhood, how difficult it was, and the burden, the bullying. Every surgery you had, did you feel more confident and comfortable, or that doesn't go away?
No, it's funny. I only started talking about my cleft affected condition 3 years ago. And I've had a very long career on Wall Street, Silicon Valley, and I've done a bunch of stuff in Hollywood. And almost all the people that I've worked with and even gone to school with had no idea. They had no idea that I've been going in and out of the hospital my whole life, had treatment and whatnot. And I think that part of it is that I was just really lucky, largely due to the love of my mother, that I didn't spiral into some downward black hole. For most of my teenage up until college, I was very, very isolated. I had no friends. When I was younger, I was constantly teased. I was called Elephant Boy and Monster. I had a lot of anger, frankly. And what I did was I really channeled all that energy into trying to be the best I could be, and a little bit of trying to show other people that, I'm not some freak. I'm not someone that's going to end up in some dungeon somewhere. And, thankfully, someone upstairs gave me the ability to take tests really well. I'm really good at taking tests, and that really propelled me throughout my academic career to top schools, and then, helped me a lot in my vocational career. Yeah. And then over time, I think I learned to appreciate a lot of the challenges I had. One of the things that I tell young cleft affected people, because I do a lot of mentorship now, is that, and I really do believe this, when I was younger, I thought it was a curse, but now that I'm older, I realize it was a blessing. And one of the things that the cleft really instilled in me is just really, really thick skin. You know, a lot of people say, you know, well, I don't really care what other people think and whatnot, but I really don't, because if I did, I would be in a very dark place. And that really helped me in my Wall Street career, where, you know, I was working on, you know, transactions where there was a lot at stake and people were always yelling at me, to when I was running my own company and the stress of it and everything. I think having such a tough upbringing, I think, really helped me mentally to get through that.
You obviously did this film for personal reasons, but also professional reasons. We were talking about how Asians are portrayed in films, Asians in general, if you think about all those films in the 70s and 80s and how Asians were portrayed in the stereotypes, but also people who are cleft affected, they're also in stereotypical roles, and that's something you want to change as well. For people who are Asian and Asian roles, which is changing, you see a shift, and then people who are cleft affected stars.
Yeah, absolutely. So I shared with you kind of the personal reason why I wanted to make this film and have this film be shared with the world. But on a much more you know, humanistic, strategic level, I'm very upset at the way people with facial differences are represented in Hollywood and in entertainment. And I analogize it to what has happened with the Asian American community. So I've been actively involved in that community for quite some time, trying to change the narrative. I shared with you earlier that, you know, I was part of the original group that did theater buyouts for Crazy Rich Asians. My wife and I have continued to do that, you know, every year, constantly for young Asian filmmakers, as well as films that we think the world should see. We just did Past Lives this year, which is an Oscar contender. And there's a lot of people in this room that have really been at the forefront of changing the narrative around how Asian Americans are represented. And I think, thankfully, we've made a ton of progress. I think there's still a lot more work to do, but I think as a society, we're at a point where if Asian Americans are represented negatively in a film, I think there's a ton of outrage. And in fact, I think we would all clamor to have those films either be boycotted, yes, or even the people associated be fired. And I think that similar progression has happened in the way women are represented on film, as well as other people of color. The one community that really has no voice, and I think, in fact, has become a recipient of a lot of the negative trope energy, is the facially different community. And what I mean by that is that when you look at films today, there's a lot of films and shows on TV where people that are facially different, either with a cleft or with a scar or some other difference in the way they look, are automatically put into a bucket of either outcast, pariah, serial killer, master criminal, etc., all in a negative way with very little exposition. So there is literally no explanation.
Right, name those films. We talked about many of those films.
I mean, they're
dating back to the James Bond films, to the current day, the Batman films. I mean, there's the Outcast,
You know, what's so sad, it is so indoctrinated in our society, right? So I remember I was a young kid and I watched, you know, Goldfinger, and there's an Asian criminal in there, Odd Job, you know, and it never occurred to me, like, why does he never say anything, right? So, you know, I started researching. It turns out that Ian Fleming gave him a cleft palate and decided that cleft palate people can't talk. And, you know, that led him down a path where he became a thug, right? And then every other James Bond film uses the trope of the guy with the scar is the bad guy, right? And sometimes they explain it, but a lot of times they don't. They just introduce him with a scar. I remember when I was 30 years old, so I was already a grown man. And, you know, I went to the theater, you know, to escape like everyone does. And I was a big fan of Thomas Harris, the writer who created Hannibal Lecter. And he had a film called Red Dragon. And Red Dragon is another film about serial killer, and stars Ray Fiennes in the main role as the serial killer character called Francis Dollarhide. And Francis Dollarhide has a cleft. And I remember I'm a 30-year-old man at this point, and I'm a Wall Street guy, I'm really tough, but I got really upset watching that film, because when I saw Ray Fiennes with a cleft on the screen up there, I thought about, you know, maybe no matter what I do, most people will think of him when they see my cleft, right? Most people think of a serial killer and not like some guy who's just trying to live his life, right? And then, you know, even just very recently, we had the Batman, the version with Robert Pattinson, the main bad guy is the Penguin, they gave the Penguin a cleft. That's not part of the original canon of the Penguin, but they put it in there to help you explain why he's so deranged. Pachinko, another film, a series that I really wanted to love, starts off with the father of the main character has a cleft, and he's automatically the pariah, right? Because that's just the way it is. If you've got a cleft, you're automatically the outcast. I can go on and on. There's so many of these films. Some of them are truly disgusting. There's one I just have to mention because I don't want anybody to watch it. It was one of the top films in Denmark. It's called Men and Chicken, and it stars one of my favorite actors in the world, Mads Mikkelsen, who actually also plays Hannibal Lecter in a series. And I'm not making this up, okay? The log line of the film is about a cleft-affected person who is Mads, who has 4 brothers, all with cleft, okay? So they all have cleft, and they go in search of why they have a cleft. And again, I'm not going to completely spoil it for you, but they learn that part of the reason why they have a cleft is because of animal DNA that they have. I can't even make this up, okay? And this film was made, I think just under 10 years ago. So this is not like, stuff in the 1990s, right? And when I read the press about films like that, there's another series on Netflix called Dark. It's a German series. It's actually one of the top on Netflix. They have the master criminals there are actually called the Cleft Lip Trio of all things, right? When you start to shine a light on this, you start to realize, wow, yeah, that's really bad, right? But if someone doesn't call attention to it, I think it's so ingrained in the way that we consume media that unless you're a cleft-affected person or a person with a facial difference, it doesn't dawn on you that this is wrong.
Right.
So that's really the other reason why I want this film to get out there, because I want more films out there that actually show people like me as like human beings, right? People like Jari as like normal people. We aren't the serial killers out there. In fact, society has shown that serial killers are more likely to look like handsome, preppy white guys like Ted Bundy and Jeffrey Dahmer than people like me, right? And so that's part of the narrative that I want to change.
Right, and there are people who are famous who are cleft affected who've actually not very famous celebrities and sports stars who have actually never spoken about it because of the childhood trauma you were saying is so bad. But there's an image, right, that in the movies, but in real life it's different. And I'm so glad you created this film. We want to get to questions, but I want to ask what's next for the film, because you won that film festival. Oh, you've won several, but that one you are nominated. You're automatically entered into the Oscars.
Yes, right. That's correct. So thank you. So we've entered, this is actually our 4th festival, so you're the 4th crowd to see this. We've entered 3 other festivals, and we won all 3 festivals, which was shocking, but also really heartening for me. The first festival that we entered, Holly Shorts, is Oscar qualified. So when we won that festival, we automatically became Oscar qualified, which means that we are now in the Oscar portal. So all the members of the Academy can watch it. And originally that wasn't my plan to go for an Oscar, but I realized that if we could go for an Oscar and in a wishful universe we win, that could really shine a light on this topic. And so what I've been doing now is really ramping up the whole PR machine. We have to basically get the members of the documentary branch of the Academy to watch our film. And so where all of you can be helpful, if you want to help in any way on the film, is just tell your friends about the film, post about it, because the more that the zeitgeist and the people of the Academy hear about the film, the more likely they're going to watch it. And unfortunately, there are quite a number of films in the portal, and from my understanding, they don't watch all of them.
Right.
And so really being in the conversation helps build, the awareness of it.
So we can create buzz around this film, right? Yes, yeah. Definitely post it if you can. We want to take questions from the audience. I know you may have some, and we have a few minutes left before we close. Okay, about the festival. So does anybody have any question? Oh, in the back? Yes.
We're running a mic up.
Oh, we're going to run a mic up there, just in case. But we can hear you well, too. We can hear you, actually. Can you say your name first? Oh, how did this work? How did you
so
find
how do we find the story?
Yeah.
So I am a major donor and the chairman of the advisory council of Smile Train. It is a wonderful charity. I'm very discerning about where I invest my money and also donate. And this is one of the most effective charities I've ever seen in the world. And essentially what Smile Train does is that they use your donations to train doctors and healthcare providers in countries all over the world so that those local healthcare professionals can treat cleft-affected people in those countries. It's way more cost effective than trying to send people, for instance, from the US, which is also a very helpful thing, but I'm always thinking about efficacy of where I donate. So in my role at Smile Train, I had heard about a project that was percolating around about telling a story about a cleft-affected boy in the Philippines. And that's when I raised my hand. I said, whatever you guys need, financing, resources, amplification, whatever you need, I want to make sure this film gets done. Because I was, frankly, and I still am, very angry at the way that cleft-affected people and facially different people are shown in the media. And even though this is just one small film, I really do believe in the power of film. And I think one film can really change the way people think, particularly if we win the Oscar.
Yeah.
So that's how I got involved with this.
Thank you. Great question. Right there. Thank you. In the red.
Yes. What really made this film work for me was just the relationship and just the affection between the boy and his sister, and how it ends with their love and starts that way. And there actually is not that much about like, oh, the prevalence of cleft palate is this, or all the science of it, and or even I assume it's in a village in the Philippines, but that wasn't really outright stated. So there were these factual aspects that were not focused on, and instead to me it focused more on the relationship and just this affection. That's what made it work for me. But could you speak a little bit about that decision, that narrative decision?
Yeah, so and I'll speak for the director, Elisa, who's not here. It's really her genius behind all this. But I'll tell you that from a documentary standpoint, we actually broke all the rules, right? So they say, don't make something in black and white. That's really old-fashioned, right? If it's a short, it's got to be under 15 minutes. If it's a documentary, you've got to have a spine, a thread, a through line, like a fictional movie. So you got to have an interviewer who's asking questions and leading the witness, right? And despite what Netflix says, like, please don't make it a foreign language and have us read subtitles, right? So we violated all those rules, and I think part of it was we wanted to just show you what it's like to be a cleft-affected boy in outside of America, and frankly a lot of places in the world. He's in a province called Masbate. I didn't share this earlier, but my grandmother was born in Masbate. My mother was born in Iloilo. So even though my last name is Chinese, I'm essentially half Filipino, and my mother raised me, so I was actually raised more on the Filipino diet. This is a result of a Filipino diet, not a Chinese diet. In an alternate universe, like, I could be Jari. It's just like the things change, luck rolled a different way, and I ended up here. But we didn't want to make a traditional documentary. We wanted to make a film that I hope you can appreciate is more a piece of art than a documentary that you might see on, and I'm not trying to disparage other documentaries, where a lot of documentaries are more educational. I think we wanted you to feel something. We wanted you to really come away and go like, that was a beautiful piece of art, and I want to know more about what happens to them. I want to know more about, how many people in the world have cleft, which is generally 1 in 700, by the way. And we want you to do the fact-finding somewhere else, not in this comfortable theater where you want to be entertained. So that was really more the artistic choice, and I hope that we achieved that.
You did so beautifully. And now I think about it, all documentaries, there's somebody interviewing. That, I don't think that would have fit at all. That would have been so, this was a story to tell. You felt like you were hanging out with the family. Like, And you portrayed that so well. It was so beautifully done. And I think it was educational, you know, because now you got us all curious more about people who are cleft affected and this journey that he's going through and the journeys that other people have to go through, the really difficult journeys. So well done. Very well done. Okay. Yes. Is that Kelly?
Yes.
Yes,
Hi,
Kelly.
Kelly.
Cool, thank you. Hi, so I'm the other person who's also cleft affected here. I'm Cindy's daughter, and I got to meet Dave earlier this week. But I wanted to say that I really, really did enjoy this film. It was very, very heart-opening, heart-wrenching in a good way, because it's good to see our stories portrayed in media, which we usually don't see. But also, I wanted to point out today that I do see a lot of similarities in our lives as well as cleft affected people. And I did actually do I have a doctorate in occupational therapy now, but I did my entire project on on cleft lip palate too. So I definitely understand there's a huge need for mental health as well in both our population and with the parents too, or the caregivers who are taking care of either their siblings like Jerry had, or the parents who are also taking care of their children with cleft lip and palate. So there's definitely a large need in both those areas. So I'm wondering if Smile Train also has things for parents and caregivers as well as for kids who might need some more mental support.
Yeah, so I'm going to point out Michael Sempiano. He's sitting right there from Smile Train. He flew from LA to be here. Thank you, Michael. So Michael can answer any very specific Smile Train questions. But I can tell you what I've been trying to do. So not only do I donate and provide funds to help fix cleft-affected babies around the world and young people, but I've also tried to be a little bit of a role model. So part of the reason why we created this council was I wanted to be able to talk to other cleft-affected younger people and tell them a little bit about my journey, because in the communities that I've been part of, a lot of which are online, where we have a lot of cleft-affected people, particularly young people, I see just rampant mental health challenges. All the mental health challenges that I think as society we see online today, I think are 10 times worse among people that are facially different, and particularly among women, because I think women are more harshly judged by the way they look. And so I'm trying to do what I can, with just frankly just one voice to uplift and share, just small pieces of advice here and there. On the parent side, I don't have a solution there. My mother actually went through some pretty severe depression when I was born. And not only is it taxing to have a baby, but a cleft baby who can't, create suction, created all kinds of challenges for her. She had to feed me with a dropper for pretty much, like 6 months to a year. And she had postpartum and all the other challenges, which I know is very, very common among the mothers of cleft-affected babies. So, I'm just one person trying to make a difference, hopefully through this film. But I definitely encourage more investment in resources around mental health, particularly around people that don't feel like they're perfect. And I think part of the challenge in society today, particularly with social media, is that we're at a point now where if you're not perfect, you feel excluded, because most people post their perfect lives. And if you're imperfect, particularly visually imperfect, it makes you even more isolated.
Right, it's depressing. It's a depressant, actually. Social media can be a depressant.
Absolutely.
So, Michael, right, from Smile Train, you're here. That's a great question. You talked about your mother, Cindy, like superheroes. I just have to give you the sister in the movie Jessa. Incredible people with the biggest hearts and resilience and strength. So kudos to all of you. Big round of applause to the moms and the sisters out there for supporting people in such affected. But are there mental health services, and the dads, are there people is there support for them, or are there resources out there for parents,
Yeah, so a big part of what Smile Train does is not only just provide the cleft surgery, but they provide something that we call comprehensive cleft care. So that includes nutritional support for the mom to help her understand how to properly feed
her child.
And it also provides psychological support for the child and for the family and for any parent who needs it. All of it, of course, is free of charge. And so we're not just about, as Dave was mentioning earlier, bringing doctors from the West to do these surgeries. We're about treating the whole child, and that means not only physically, but also mentally and emotionally.
Okay, thank you so much for being here. If people want to find out more information, what's your website? Smile.
It's smiletrain.org.
Thank you so much.
And then
Thank you so
I'm
much.
here too, so.
Yeah.
Come see me. Thanks,
Okay,
Janelle.
we are out of time. Dave, Lou, every day after, I could talk to you for days, and I appreciate you for making this film and sharing your story, and we hope you win an Oscar for sure. We are Grace of Blood. Congratulations, and thank you so much. It's a beautiful film. Thank you so much, Dave.
Thank you for
Okay.
interviewing today.
All right, thank you. So everybody give a round of applause for Janelle Wang. So I'm glad I'm going to have to close the film fest, but thank you everybody for coming for our 9th annual Silicon Valley Asia Pacific Film Fest. And for those that stayed, I did promise you passes to our online film fest, and I will pass them out over there. So you can meet and greet Janelle and Dave out in our lobby. And so take pictures, great discussions going on. So have a great day, everyone. Thank you.